Hey everybody, welcome back to Brian's podcast. Hey, I want to ask you guys, how much do you trust your government? I mean, these are the same people that are taxing the living crap out of everybody, and everybody's obeying. Not everybody, but how much do you trust your government? Do you think they would experiment on you at all? You people that are woke up a little bit. Do you see those planes flying overhead, putting that stuff in the air? They say they're doing weather modifications and stuff like that, weather control, but they're doing much more, right? What if I told you that your government is actually experimenting on American people? Using you for like guinea pigs. You know, what if they were putting something in the water, in the air, in your food, and you didn't know nothing about it because they made it legal? I think everybody better watch this video and decide for yourself how you really feel about this video. I've watched it, and I'll tell you what, I'm more pissed off than I've ever been. I know what they've been doing, and now they're doing much, much more. And this video is going to tell you what they've been doing. But also, what if they were putting stuff in the snow? Anybody ever make a snowball and try to burn it with a lighter? Look what it does. It turns black. Why do you think that is? Microplastics, smart dust. You ever heard of that? There's much more going on than you can even think, and this is probably a good time for you to wake up and look at this and do some research and start deciding for yourself where we're at right now. So let's play this video, and don't let your jaw drop. I think you're going to be very shocked to see, and first thing I thought of was, why are they doing this? For what reason? Billionaires and millionaires and I don't know. Let's take a look.
Jesse Beltran is the president and the co-founder of Cosmic Clarity Connection LLC and the technical lead of Mind Nexus. With a professional background as a firefighter and a paramedic, Jesse spent his early career in public safety and emergency response before transitioning into specialized technical investigations. Jesse is TSCM certified technical surveillance countermeasures, a distinction that reflects advancing training in deacting and analyzing covert surveillance technologies. He has become a leading figure in the investigation of anomalous frequency activity associated with Havana syndrome and related directed energy phenomena. Jesse has conducted scans across the globe, building one of the largest independent data sets of its kind. His evidence-based work has been used by legal teams, advocacy groups, and was recently presented by RFK Jr. organization, emphasizing the urgent need for civilian protections. Jesse has also appeared on major media platforms like InfoWars, The Alex Jones Show, to raise awareness about covert technology and their human impact. His mission is to combine technical precision with compassion, ensuring every case is documented with accuracy and care. Welcome to the show. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Apollo. It was a pleasure. And it's beautiful weather here today in beautiful Las Vegas.
Yes. So I would love to start with the device that you have. And you said you scan people. I said, I have no idea what actually do you do. And I asked you whether you can scan me.
Yes.
So please do, and tell me in the first place and the audience something new about me.
Okay. Yeah, just so they understand what I do. When I, back in 2010, I met a gentleman by the name of Dr. John Hall. He is the author of a book called A New Breed: Satellite Terrorism in America. And he wrote the book because this phenomenon where we're about to talk about happened to his fiance. And then I met him because it also happened to someone who was close to me. And what he was doing, he was seeing U.S. civilians who were also complaining of the same symptoms that his fiance had. And so he was using a general frequency detector and scanning them around their bodies and coming up with positive areas at very specific focal points around the human body. And we'll be able to demonstrate that. And later on in the podcast, we'll show people what that is. So anyway, I asked him, I said, well, isn't that enough for the doctors to do something? And then he said, no, what was happening, because the symptoms are this: they get this strange electrical frequency being beamed to their heads. And then followed by short-term, long-term memory fog, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, vertigo, but more specifically electrical shocks to the human body.
They feel it physically?
Physically, and then very targeted towards the torso. Now, when I asked him, and he goes, what was happening was, as soon as they go to the doctor asking for further tests, as soon as they talk about that electronic sound, they were automatically railroaded into the mental health industry and forced institutionalized and are forced medicated.
And forced?
Forced.
Okay. What year was that?
It's 2010.
In 2010, they can force you to a mental institution?
If you were deemed a danger to yourself, or they deem that you need a psychological mental health evaluation, they can put you under what is called a 5150 hold, which is a 72-hour hold. Okay?
In where?
Anywhere in the United States. They can do that.
50 states?
In all 50 states. You can be put on a mental health hold.
If you come on your own and tell the story. But what about, let's say, my friend is experiencing the same stuff. Will they come for him?
No, he has to tell someone. Yeah, if he's telling someone this, and I'll explain why that happens. But what happened recently in 2016, our diplomats in Havana, Cuba, started having the same symptoms. They started complaining about this weird frequency being beamed to their heads, followed by short-term, long-term memory loss, brain fog, nausea, vomiting, vertigo, severe head pain, and electrical shocks to the body, specifically in the torso. The U.S. government did not believe them until the Canadian diplomats started having the same symptoms, and the Canadian government ended up supporting their diplomats by giving them health care and services in order to figure out what was going on with them. After that, then the U.S. government decided to help the U.S. diplomats. But on May 8th of 2024, the Department of Homeland Security had a hearing in which a witness testified. His name was retired Lieutenant Colonel Greg Edgreen. And Colonel Edgreen, testified that this phenomenon was happening not only to our diplomats, but the best of our best in the CIA, FBI, and it is now happening to congressional members in Congress. Okay?
Not in Havana, not in Cuba.
No.
In the States.
It is here in the States, on our homeland. Okay? And so what he was fighting for is for resources and services for those individuals who were harmed by this. But they are only claiming this started in 2016 and is only happening to federal employees and their family members. Now, the interesting thing is they can't get away from the signal no matter where they go. It seems to follow them. But in some cases, they talk about directed energy weapons capabilities, in which there was a case in Florida where indeed a law enforcement agent, I believe it was a FBI agent, was attacked by these. But if you think about the logistics, there are just so many people that are suffering from this. It's logistically impossible to have so many people following around and aiming this device at you. So, it was a different phenomenon. So I decided to talk to Dr. John Hall, and I said, you know what, there's got to be a way to take these complaints, subjective just meaning nothing that we can measure. It's only things that you can voice. And I said, there's got to be a way to take that subjectivity and turn it into objectivity. So I decided to hold a meeting in Sacramento, California, and I just sent out flyers to the community, and I said, if you're having these symptoms, I'd like to talk to you. I expected maybe 12 people would show up. 100 people showed up. It was standing room only. And what was unique about that meeting, I called it for several reasons, but one specific reason is Dr. Hall called me late one evening. He says, Jesse, there's this married couple and I can say their names, John and Bonnie Kellerby, because it's an important case. And he says he's about to divorce her because he thinks she's crazy. Can you please call him and maybe help him? I said, sure. So I called Mr. Kellerby and I said, you know what? I understand what you're feeling and I understand your frustration, but can you just slow things down a little bit and please come to our meeting? So when we came to the meeting in Sacramento, I had everyone stand up and tell me why they were there and what they were experiencing. And by the time we were done, Mr. Kellerby stood up in his room very emotional, and he's not that kind of man, very proud man. And he stood up and he started to tear up, and he says, I almost lost the love of my life. He says, because I thought she was crazy. And he goes, and after hearing every one of you here in this room, you're complaining about the same thing she is, exactly the same, and I can no longer say she's crazy. So he supported her from that point forward, and he became a hero. So after that meeting, I decided to do mass testing in the field. So
Out of those 100 persons that came, all of them civilians?
all of them civilians, yes. But shortly after, I held a meeting to start the scanning concurrently with gathering data in the form of surveys so I can assess who was most likely to be affected by this, or maybe not. Is there some commonality? Is it random? We didn't know. And when we held our first meeting in Davis, California by the university there, 300 people showed up to be scanned. And it was at this point I knew that we were onto something bigger than ourselves. And after that testing, the pictures that were starting to be painted is the people who were most likely to be affected by this first were Caucasian females in their 40s, highly educated, recently single, widowed, or divorced. Then Caucasian males. Then in the same category, female male, African Americans, Asians, Hispanics, and it dwindled down from there in ethnicity. Then we went to the Midwest, same results, no differences. Until we got to Chicago, the African American and Caucasian criteria is flipped, and that remained consistent to the East Coast with one anomaly, and that state was Virginia. I had 100 military subcontractors contact me, all having the same symptoms. They heard that I was doing this RF testing, and they asked me to come and test them. What eventually happened is I was invited by a government agency in Europe to come and test some of their employees at the embassy. And they took me to an off-site facility. I had to sign an NDA and allowed me to use what is called an anechoic chamber. And an anechoic chamber is an environment, it's like a Faraday cage, but very robust, designed to block out huge frequency spectrums. It was rated at 9 kilohertz and 18 gigahertz. Okay.
So no interference.
Yeah. So yeah, I knew that the frequencies that we were detesting were well within those parameters. Mm-hmm. So we weren't sure what we were going to find, but I had a hypothesis because I've taken people down 2 miles down into granite caverns and we're still detecting frequencies.
2 miles down?
Down, 2 miles down. Okay. And so my hypothesis is this: there has to be something special about these people, something unique. That can be the only reason why this signal is following them. And I didn't want to voice it to the public yet until we did that final test in that anechoic chamber. So, and we have the videos. You'll be able to show the audience here, and I'll show you specifically what we're talking about. So when we went into the anechoic chamber, we used controls, so people who weren't symptomatic. And usually people who weren't symptomatic back then in 2010, they were always negative. I never found any areas of any emissions. But when we put the control group in the anechoic chamber for the first time, our frequency counters read 0. We knew we were in the right environment. We were very excited about that. Mm-hmm. Then we did 2 controls. One was a government, elected government official, and others were employees. And then we put they also asked me to bring any individuals who I felt strongly were victims of this. And so I brought a lot of Americans and people from all over the world. And when we put them in the anechoic chamber and we put the control test 0, then we would have the symptomatic person in that same place. We put the frequency counter, we were detecting frequencies. It was at this point that we could say, for whatever reason, these frequencies appear to be emitting from the human body. Okay? Ultimately, what happened is, in the Bonnie Kellerby case, where Mr. Kellerby was going to divorce her because he thought she was crazy, they ended up surgically removing non-consensual electronic biosensors from her person. We knew that this was the reason that the signal was following her.
How big was the sensor?
These are, by this time, they were very, very small. They were down to the micron size. There's a history of these sensors. Back in the 40s and 50s, there was a large grain of rice. We were implanting these in our soldiers.
To do what?
To track them. And it transmits data and receives data.
In the 40s?
In the 40s.
During World War II?
Yes. Yes. So then you get into the 70s, they began to get smaller, a small grain of rice. By the late 80s and late 70s and late 80s, there's a case down in Southern California. He was a politician, and his name was Dave Larson. And in the Dave Larson case, he had 10 of these biosensors removed from his body, surgically removed.
How do they find it?
You can track them with specific type equipment, and I'll show you what we're going to test you with today.
You're showing me documents, something switched.
I'm sorry. So, I'll show you this. This is actually his medical report, although that was the first paragraph. But you could see they're down to the size of a letter of a penny. Some were 4 letters on a penny, but very, very small. These were all comprised of electronic components and sensors. They transmit data in real time. So we'll talk a little bit about that.
He had 10.
And he still has more in his body.
All across the body?
Yeah. And he sued. And the judge threw the case out. The reason the judge threw the case out is because he inadvertently signed up to be in a study. But they did not give him full disclosure of what they were going to do to him. Because if they did, there's no way he would have agreed to do this.
Okay, so if that sensor is that small and it sends signal all the time, where does this sensor get the energy from?
Piezoelectric effect. Our bodies naturally can create enough energy for them to operate. So, and this is nothing new. We, unfortunately, particularly here in the United States, are known for experimenting on people. The Tuskegee experiments, where they infected African Americans with syphilis and let it run rampant. Yes, it's documented. Yeah.
Can I
Tuskegee? Yep. Tuskegee experiments. Yeah.
So
pull it right up.
What year was that?
Tuskegee. Just write in Tuskegee experiments.
Can you spell it for me?
T-Y-S.
T-Y-S.
T-E-K-A-G-E-E. It'll pop up.
Experiment. Tell me more in German.
Yeah. So what they did is the African Americans were.
Yeah, so the Tuskegee syphilis study was a U.S. government medical experiment 1932 to 72 for 40 years, where researchers studied and treated syphilis in black men, conducted by U.S. Public Health Service in Alabama. About 600 poor African American men were involved. The men were not told they had syphilis. Even after penicillin became the proven cure in 1940s, treatment was intentionally withheld. Many men died and the disease spread to wives and children. The study was exposed in 1972, causing national outrage and leading to stronger medical ethics laws and informed consent rules. That's insane. Yeah. This is fucking racism. This is the real racism that now we're talking about in 2026, guys.
Yeah, well, it gets, we'll go further down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just the beginning. There were LSD experiments that were utilized on people. There were radiation, MK Ultra. Ewan Cameron, when he was funded by the U.S. government in order to try to erase an adult brain and re-imprinted with new memory sets. Okay, and he would use
Ewan Cameron?
Ewan Cameron. Cameron, he's a Canadian psychiatrist.
Okay.
Just but yeah.
Psychiatrist experiment with brain. Donald Ewan Cameron, the Canadian psychiatrist involved in a controversial brain experiment during the Cold War. Cameron worked at Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal, Canada. In the 50s to 60s, he ran experiments funded secretly by CIA under MK Ultra. He tried to reprogram patients' minds using methods called depatterning and psychic driving. What he did, extremely high doses of electroshock therapy, drug use including LSD and sedatives, long medically induced comas, repetitive audio messages played for weeks.
So he would put a helmet over their heads.
Without consent.
That's debatable. There are several lawsuits that still existed this day that are still going on in Canada with regards to what Ewan Cameron had did. I've actually done radio shows with a gal. This was done to her father, and she's still suing. And those are still going.
It was not consensual.
It was, yeah. What they did was illegal and non-consensual. So he would do things like induce the long-term sleep on purpose, use electric shock therapy to erase the memory sets of the neurons. Then he would play recordings of themes over and over and over again in order to try to embed these into the human brain, these new memory sets.
Like what? Who knows what?
Who knows what? The bottom line is he messed them up. It didn't turn out well. And what we're about to talk about today, when we get towards the end of this podcast, as I walk you through, you'll find out that this is still happening today, but it's on steroids, okay? So let's talk about the biosensors that were taken out of Bonnie Kellerby. We knew that we now had the smoking gun, because prior to that, most people who talked about these symptoms were called crazy, okay? She was diagnosed with schizophrenia because she kept telling the doctors that she had implants in her, and they didn't believe her.
How did she know? She felt them?
She could feel, well, you just, when you're going through this, you know it's not normal. You know it's some type of electronic technology. All of the victims all claim the same thing. And so now, we commonly hear that people say they've been chipped and they're doing some crazy things they wouldn't normally do, that's probably incongruent to their moral compass. But I know through my work that mental illness should never be the first conclusion in these cases anymore because of what I've done over the last 20 years. So after the Bonnie Kellerby case, that gave us enough ammunition to say, look, we know there's something wrong, and you need help. We need to help these victims, and it's been a fight. Even to this day, they're helping the federal employees, but they're not helping the civilians. And I've got tens of thousands of civilian cases, not only here in the United States, but worldwide. Colonel Agron said that this phenomenon is happening on every continent on this globe. At the time when he gave testimony, he said, with the exception of Antarctica. We now know that there are people complaining about these symptoms in Antarctica, where they're working now. Okay, so this is old technology. Okay, when I have someone that I help coach through this process to get them the evidence, we do the RF scan, we do the nonlinear junction, which is this, and I'll do on you so we can demonstrate. And then we coach them to go get medical imagery in the form of high resolution panoramic X-ray, CT scans, MRI scans, ultrasounds. If they're fortunate enough and they can identify something of a size that can be surgically removed, you're lucky, okay? Now let's move forward to where we are today. And back then, if I scanned people who've never gone through this, even children, normally it's always negative, okay? Mm-hmm. Something changed. We hold retreat. I'm the president of the organization that promotes Mind Nexus as our brand, and we hold retreats, and our whole focus to create Mind Nexus was to educate people in academia who weren't familiar with this phenomenon. We wanted to show them the proof, the smoking guns. How do you explain these surgeries? How do you explain these biosensors after these people are complaining about being chipped and then being diagnosed with mental health diagnoses? This is what we are now saying, that in these cases, the mental health issue was synthetically induced on them, okay? It wasn't a biological process in which they're saying, oh, the wiring is wrong. Well, you're right, the wiring is wrong because you put something in them, okay? Now, where are we today? We did this retreat just last year, and we had people, airline pilots, NASA, engineers, scientists, doctors from all walks of life come to these things. And we educate them about this. So I'm also a certified master hypnotist, and I became that because of my journey. I noticed that people who are most affected, doctors losing $10 million businesses, and lawyers, you name it. I dealt with people from all walks, even judges, and people in intelligence agencies. And those who are most affected tend to have a high suggestibility, as what we, a percentage of high suggestibility. Something between 95 to 100. 100 is the worst case because you're completely somnambulous, and that means that you're 100% suggestible. Now remember what you and Cameron was doing. Just imagine if you can do that remotely, okay? What you could do to someone, okay? So, I was asked, after I was giving us a presentation on how to positively program your subconscious mind and stop using negative talk. I mean, this was a motivational type presentation, and after I was done, they asked, can you please scan us? And I said, okay, but you're all going to come up negative. And so I did, and I was shocked. They now all became positive. They were all showing positive findings and the same patterns that I was finding in the symptomatic individuals. This has never been before been found. And people ask, well, what's that pattern? And the pattern looks like this. They're always positive in the right, left TMJ, nasal dorsum, the occipital portion of the head, base of the neck, right and left apex, clavicles, right and left arm, upper abdomen, hips, quads, calves, and lower lumbar, and the scapula. Very consistent. It's not random. It's always in those locations. And
So it means in every place there is a sensor?
well, back then, depending on what your pattern was, I can tell if you were a soldier without you telling me anything, because we always do these blind. I say, I don't want to know what you're experiencing, where you're having issues. I don't want to know your history. I just want you to stand there and be quiet and let me do what I need to do. Okay? And I would scan them, and depending on what their pattern was, I can tell if they were a soldier, I can tell if they've been incarcerated, or I could tell if they were just the general population. You can superimpose their scans over each other. If they were soldiers, and they'd be the same. Mm-hmm. If they were incarcerated, they would be the same. If it's the general population, it would be the same, except for a couple of anomalies. And whenever there was an anomaly, that means somewhere outside of that pattern. When you dig into their history, they've always had some type of medical procedure or surgery. So now, where are we at? I was very concerned about this because I said the only thing that's happened is this little pandemic thing that we just went through. So I was invited recently to help with a study in the UK, and I just returned 2.5 weeks ago from the final of the study. 2 months ago, I was asked to help with the study because they were claiming, in fact, you know what, right now would be a great time to go ahead and show that video.
The trailer?
The trailer, yeah.
Okay, so you've sent me a trailer of the new movie that is coming out.
Yeah, this is called Nano. So this is the director of Died Suddenly, the CEO, Died Suddenly 1. It had over 1 billion viewings day one. And they're now doing Died Suddenly 2, and they've been following me around the world, filming my work and interviewing experts in this phenomenon, which we'll expose completely here on your podcast.
When this movie is coming out?
He's within the next 3 months.
Okay.
Okay.
So guys, this is the first time I'm seeing the trailer with you.
Now I have to mute this because they'll take the video down because of the music. But it's about whistleblowers on this very thing, what they're talking about, and surveilling Americans. And at the end of it, you'll see Bill Gates and his wife saying, well, he would never do something like this. And you'll see the look on his face. But as soon as I can, I'll put it back up where the music's going to be gone. But yeah, if you think they were spying on you through AI and other ways, this is huge. They're keeping track of you by these sensors. And this guy right there, he's a German Nazi. Don't even know why he's even in place anywhere. He's got very evil thoughts about stuff. And there she is talking about, well, my husband would never do something like that.
Doesn't even exist, and he's never uttered the words out of his mouth, so.
I bet you didn't know that she was taking antibiotics, right? Because Bill Gates had sex with a Russian prostitute, and he had.
I am aware. Yeah.
So please, Melinda, shut up.
Microchips and tracking devices are embedded in the vaccine.
And there's that music. I gotta take it off, or they'll take the video down. It's very important that you all see this. And if you can go on Apollo and see the whole video without being muted.
Nanos.
They've been nanoparticles, yes.
But
We'll talk about that after this.
As you go through the
And there we go, the music again. These are some very evil people that are treating us like guinea pigs, not telling us what they're doing. It's evil. And suffering a lot of these people that are going through these symptoms, not knowing what's going on with them, is just, it's asinine. As soon as he stops this video, then we can put it back on. But all these symptoms started right after the pandemic. Not that it's not in the air and snow and water, and you'll see.
Okay, so he said, we can receive and transmit. What can they transmit then?
So we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So this is a gentleman who did a TED Med talk. His name is Dr. Ido Bachelet in 2013. So you saw that was 2019. And in 2013, he's folding up a syringe on that stage. And he says, in the syringe, which I just brought from my lab, oh, why don't we just play the video for you?
Okay.
Okay, it's very short.
Can I find it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll play it for the audience.
Oh, well, I have the short because it is about...
Okay, then.
Yeah, I have the short. And then you can... I encourage everyone to watch it.
Okay, I'm gonna put it up on the screen for you guys too.
At least, in the links down below.
And I'll show you this syringe, which I brought from my lab. So this syringe has inside it 1,000 billion robots. So these robots are each 50 nanometers long, which as you can see in this slide under the microscope. 50 nanometers is about 2,000 times thinner than the thickness of your hair.
How is he still alive? Exposing this or
Well,
saying
no,
what-
he's not exposing it. He created it. He developed the technology,
Okay.
and I want everyone to understand, technology in itself is not good or bad. It's who's in control of the technology
I would argue with you.
that makes it good or bad.
Nuclear weapon? Should we ever invent it?
No. Yeah. Well,
Technology.
that's a good point. But again, even though it's been created, it's in who's in control of it who will decide whether it's used or not. You can always choose not to use it, even though you have.
Humanity is humanity. Humans are humans, right?
Well,
You got something I need. Give it to me. Or this.
yeah. Well, there's two kinds of people: those who are selfish and those who are selfless.
But most of the time, the people that are
Selfish control. And control. So this is what those nanorobots look like. They're 1/2000th times the width of a human hair. They can carry a payload. They can open up and distribute it, and they're all controlled by RF frequencies, radio frequencies, once they're in a host. And they are all computer components. They self-assemble, they self-replicate, they cross the blood-brain barrier, and they will do whatever they are programmed to do. He also teaches his students at the university, once they're in a host, how to control them with your Xbox controller.
Xbox controller.
Yeah, when you watch this full video, you'll see that.
Guys, I know what you're thinking right now. How is this freaking even possible, right? Guys, I did my best to provide you all the proofs and evidence that I needed, and I believe that you need too. My podcast is always about telling the truth and providing proofs and evidence while you're watching on the screen. So guys, if you're listening to this audio on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or somewhere else, please watch the whole video on YouTube till it's still there, and you will see all the proofs and evidence that you need. Guys, I know what you're thinking. Once again, you're thinking, why is this video not shared worldwide? Why it's not gone viral? Why it does not have 1 million minimum views? And I have an answer for you. Guys, you, the audience, you have the power to make this video go viral and worldwide. First of all, like this video right now, since YouTube likes it. YouTube algorithm likes when you like the video and when you leave comments below. Leave as many comments as possible. And number 3, guys, right now, take the link of this video and send it to all your friends, peers, and loved ones who you think should watch this episode right now, guys. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so right now. Every week I try to provide you the best content that I can, and once again, fact checking it minimum twice and showing you all the proofs and evidence that you need on the screen, because I care about the truth. And now, let's get back to the podcast.
So, now Ido Bachelet created this because he thought he was doing something good. if you use this in the right way, you can use it as a medical delivery system where you're, for let's say cancers, and go directly to a tumor. It opens up the payload and only attacks the cancer cell and no good cells. Okay?
Has this ever been done?
Yes, they're doing it now.
Effective?
Yeah. And in his case, he did this because he had a daughter who had a bone ailment, genetic bone ailment. Okay? So his thought was he could program the nanorobots to create a bridge, like you see little ants create bridges. You can program the nanorobots to attach one end of a bone and the other, and then the calcium and the bone calcifications would start to develop and it would heal the bone together. That he wasn't, in his mindset, I truly believe he wasn't using these for nefarious reasons.
Did he succeed with his daughter?
That was never disclosed, but that was his reason for doing it. Okay, so remember I was talking about pre-pandemic. If you weren't symptomatic, I didn't find anything. Now, when I was at our retreat and I started seeing everyone light up in the same locations, I'm like, what am I dealing with now? I've never seen this before. This is an anomaly or what? So when I went to the UK, you saw the MAC address study. They were doing a MAC address study and they were finding MAC addresses on individuals. And they were doing follow-up studies on the MAC addresses, and there was some inconsistencies. And I said, well, I was introduced to the CEO of the company who they were giving zeolite Z. Zeolite Z is a mineral that's negatively charged that Mother Nature makes. But because it's negatively charged, theoretically, if you have anything of, these metals or toxic metals, toxic plastics, graphene, which is the amplifier antenna, and these nanoparticles, if you could take that out of the body somehow, maybe you could disable it. Okay, that's what their thought processes were. Well, there were inconsistencies, and I said, well, you know what you need to do, because my background is in technical surveillance countermeasures. And we go throughout environments and we detect very, very tiny miniaturized electronics. I mean, down to a pinhead on a needle. And believe it or not, cameras are that small and listening devices are that small now, and they're very effective in high resolution.
Once again, where do they get energy from?
A lot of them, those that are in an environment like that, have to have an energy source. Or they can be energized by RF. They can be energized by Wi-Fi. There's a lot of technologies now that can energize these sources.
So there are cameras the size of a
pinhead on a needle. Yeah. So, and I'll show you exactly how that's working, because it'll be interesting. Because we'll scan you, and I'm sure your audience would be curious to know.
I'm not schizophrenic.
No.
I'm not suicidal, guys. Just keep this in mind.
Yeah.
I love my life.
Yeah. But anyway, so I said, you can control these with RF emissions. You can turn this stuff on and off. The only way you're going to really validate what you believe you're finding is to use what's called a nonlinear junction detection scan. And that is this device here. They're highly sensitive. And it was initially designed to find rust on airplanes. An engineer designed it. And serendipitously, what they found out is that it would go off when it was over any silicon-based electronics. All electronics have silicon in them, okay? And the electronic didn't even have to be on for it to find. Even if they were off, it would find it. So either it's passive or active, it would still locate it, okay? And so I said, you need to do a study, and they need to be scanned to see if we are detecting any silicon-based locations that can be attributed to what you're experiencing or can explain away. And they were really glad they did, because what we found is that, just like I found over at a retreat, everyone on that baseline tested positive. So what we did is took an overall score, a percentage of silicon-based detections located, added them up, and that gave them a baseline, and then we marked the locations. And then I was there 2 months later. That's why 2.5 weeks ago I came back, and we rescanned them, and the results were quite promising, and we can talk about that a little bit later. Okay, but basically what this does is we can put it over, and it's highly sensitive. I can put my phone right there, and don't.
Mm-hmm.
Pick it right up, and that's what it does, and it'll say probability silicon.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what so in addition to an RF scan, we would mark them. Then there was just one form of testing. Then we would come with a nonlinear junction scan. Interesting enough, it lit up in the exact locations as the RF detection did. Okay, so 2 different types of testing, all finding the same results, and that's why I was asked to come help them with my background. Yeah.
Okay, so those nanoparticles that can assemble themselves in the human body, can they be consumed by food?
Absolutely.
Can it be consumed by air?
Absolutely.
The one that we get, let's say, clouds from?
Absolutely.
Rain, fog, snow.
All of these findings are out there. So
Did you
here's
find any in the, let's say, in the snow?
well, I've not tested the snow. I have seen studies where they're looking at those things. So how are these nanoparticles most generally getting in people? This is the xylocaine derivative. Okay, that's anesthetic. When you go to a dentist, lidocaine, xylocaines, all of those canes now have this nano delivery system in it. Okay. Unfortunately, what has happened is here in the United States is that we have been duped. Our medical health system has been turned into a form of weaponization against us. Okay, and if we look here, Dr. Ido Bachelet's nanorobots next to the xylocaine derivative, they're the same. So what I did discover is that people who lived in the cities and the suburbs, we were just lighting up everywhere. People who lived outside of the cities and the suburbs didn't go see a doctor, lived a very organic lifestyle, grew their own fruits and vegetables, ate very healthy. You know, you're always active because you're out working a farm. They came up positive still, but in less locations. Prior to this study, I found 2 individuals who lived lifestyles like that, and they only lit up in like 2 and 3 locations, which I thought was amazing.
But they're usually under the skin, not inside the organs?
Well, I don't know where they are specifically when I'm using this. I can only tell you what the machine is designed to do.
Okay, but what about that example where they were extracting 10 of them?
Yeah.
Under the skin?
You have to
Not
surgically
deep,
remove.
but not deep.
They were fairly close to the surface in most cases. Not in all. We do have cases where I can show you, let's see here. This is a high digital panoramic x-ray. Remember I say they always come up positive in the right and left TMJ?
Mm-hmm.
This is the TMJ right here. It's nice and clean. Look over here. There's a foreign body in that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The next image is of the same person, but an MRI scan. And I'll enlarge it. An RFID shaped object.
It's right here.
Yes. Or you get the shot when you go to the dentist.
Okay, doctors do it knowingly? Or is it just in the
Well,
anesthesia?
in most cases, no.
Not knowingly.
Not
Just doing their job. They have no idea what's inside.
correct.
the
I don't
syringe.
believe people get into medicine to want to harm people. I was a firefighter paramedic. I didn't get into it. If I were to known that if I was giving people the shots that I'm giving people out in the field was going to harm them, I wouldn't do it.
Because of the oath.
Yeah, you take an oath to do no harm. So most people don't. But I met a gentleman who was a dental surgeon, and we showed him some reports, showed him these images, and he said, Jesse, the dentist that did this knew, and he was told to do it. And he goes, there are these teams called CERT teams, which are comprised of these task force agencies that involve law enforcement, FBI, sometimes military, and they'll involve medical professionals in order to do this. And he says they were ordered to do this.
How did he know?
He said he was part of a CERT team.
Not U.S. only.
Well, we can talk about that. Right now, let's talk about who has the technology.
Okay.
Well, the Russians have been in the forefront of this for many, many years.
Russians.
Yes. Igor's...
The ones that can do shit for 4 years in Ukraine.
Yes.
Basically, paper tiger.
Well, they have been in the forefront of this type of technology for years. And President Putin, back when I was in 2010, gave an interview to the Politico. Those who master psychotronic weapons will be the superpower to rule the world. And right now we're in a new arms race. The U.S. has this technology, the Russians have this technology, the U.K. does, China does, and we know India does. Okay. I kind of skip why this is imperative.
Please don't skip it.
Yeah, remember why what Ewan Cameron was trying to do. Okay, he was trying to erase memory sets and imprint new memory sets.
Install something in you.
Yeah. Recently there was a study done where they took these 8 individuals and they erased their memories and imprinted new memories of Disney characters that were never Disney characters. Then they took them to Disneyland. These individuals, they had other people dress up in these costumes that were made of the imprinted memory sets of the Disney characters that were never Disney characters. And each and every one of them believed that those were Disney characters. They wanted their pictures with them. They got excited. You could never convince them that those were never Disney characters, even though they weren't.
Adults. And this is documented?
Yes. Yes. And I'll leave you the video of the doctor who actually did that. But what I want to show the audience next is there was a report that was released in November of 1995. It's called the New World Vistas Report, and it was put out by the United States Air Force. And it was all the greatest minds in the Air Force in order to keep the United States a superpower 50 years into the future. And this was obtained, it was declassified, and there's the document itself. Okay, I have it, and I'll leave you a copy of it. Very interesting reading. But interestingly enough, it's called New World Vistas.
Air and space power for the 21st century.
Correct. Okay. And on page 89 of this report is an interesting chapter called Biological Processes.
What agency is that?
This is the United States Air Force.
Okay.
Okay. And in this chapter, and I'll give a synopsis, but you can leave it there for all your readers to look at. It's really interesting to see. It talks about utilizing RF frequencies in order to manipulate the biological processes in the human body, to cause pain, to cause discomfort, and incapacitate you. Not only do they talk about doing that, it talks about imprinting memory sets and erasing memory sets with RF technology. Okay, it's all in there, and you read it. So, but that was in 1994. In 1972 is another report put out by the United States Congress. And in this report,
Individual Rights and the Federal Role in Behavior Modification. Committee on the Judiciary, United States Senate, 93rd Congress, second session.
okay?
I have to.
Second session.
Okay? And in here, back in 1972, on page 35, I highlighted, and again, because I usually have this up on the screen, but I have the areas highlighted that you want to pay attention to. Unfortunately, the less fortunate of society are always experimented on. They're used as guinea pigs, people in the mental health industries by design, and people who are incarcerated. Okay? This talks about how Vacaville Prison, how they were notorious for violating human rights issues, but they were experimenting on the prisoners, and they were already back in 1972 able to remotely read via telemetry your biological process, such as heart rate, temperature, respirations, all of those types of things. And on the next page after 35, it says, also using RF radio frequency to remotely read thoughts.
1972.
1972. So now think about this. If all this is controlled by RF frequency, radio frequency transmissions, everything's a frequency. Mm-hmm. Your Wi-Fi is a frequency, a certain 2.4 gigahertz.
Or 5.
Yeah, but it can be 5. Yeah, well, it's not 5 yet though. It's 4.2. They haven't released it yet, although they market it as 5G. It's not. But they're going to 6G, 8G, and they're already at 10G. Okay, the Russians just did a study in the terahertz range to specifically target very focal areas in the human brain. They know that they can intercept it and hit the occipital lobe and give you visual stimulations that don't even exist. They can hit the temporal lobes, auditory stimulations. They can hit the frontal lobes and cause other effects. The bottom line is this technology has been around for quite some time.
Okay, so they can make me hallucinate.
Yes.
Let's say I see 10 people jumping on me.
Correct.
And I have to defend myself.
Correct.
And these are just 10 civilians standing on the bus stop.
Correct.
And I have to defend myself.
Correct. Do you know right now what's happening in Iran? Did you hear about the conversion to Christianity?
I don't believe it, but yes.
Well, that same weapon is being used there. They're having visualizations of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And they're hearing Jesus. You know what we did in Desert Storm, correct?
No, I don't.
You know why they were giving up in droves, laying down their weapons to the Americans? Because we were transmitting Allah's voice saying, give up your weapons.
Documented?
Yes, documented.
Why do those documents leak?
They get out how they get out. It's like I've obtained these documents because people bring it to my attention. I've interviewed soldiers who were there, and
it's not under the top secret brief.
No, this technology is real. Do you know what happened in Venezuela recently? Mm-hmm. Do you realize we used a network that utilized the drone technology that they're claiming was scanning the nano in the soldiers? Then they said smart munitions, that the soldiers never missed firing 300 times per minute, never missed one shot, and then used acoustic RF to incapacitate all those soldiers and drop them to their knees. It incapacitated the electronics, everything. They couldn't fire their guns, their weapons, nothing. They started bleeding from their ears, nose, mouth, eyes, every orifice.
How do you know that?
It's publicly released. All the soldiers have claimed this. They said they never want to fight the Americans ever again, that they were not human. Only 20 soldiers defeated 300 soldiers and 8 helicopters. That's all we went in with. And we captured Moderno and his wife.
Okay, let's say I have an RF transmitter and receiver in my body. What's the distance they can manipulate it?
I told you we've taken people 2 miles down in granite caverns and still detecting the signals. I've been following.
Emitting. It doesn't mean that it can receive the signal.
No, you're correct. The transmission of the signal is now a network of systems. Okay, but there are patents right now that satellite technology can still read thoughts in lower orbit. So don't discount that. Okay.
So even if I'm in Joshua Tree Park,
Correct. Doesn't matter where you go. People, I've got clients all from all walks of life, all countries, who keep moving, thinking that they can get away from it. It doesn't matter. It follows you everywhere. Bill Gates says right now his 64 satellites can cover every square inch of this planet.
his
64 satellites.
he has satellites.
Yes. You can read that the capability was there even then.
70s.
Yeah, 70s. So, what a lot of these victims say to me, including those, oh, by the way, the head doctor of a 3-letter agency, I promised that I wouldn't release his name, but he was the former head doctor of the CIA. He called me, and he said, Mr. Beltran, you are exactly right. There's significant overlap between the 338 Havana syndrome patients that I'm treating and your clients, meaning that the symptoms were exactly the same. You said the only difference is you have cases where you've surgically removed biosensors. Tell me more. So, my point is this. We are in a new paradigm shift. There is an article which I know your followers are going to want to read, and it was put out by Scientific Neurology, and I believe it's in the NI. I'll give you the whole link.
Okay.
This is it. There's D-Relay, PhD. He remained very neutral. But if you want to know everything about where we're at and our capabilities today, everyone should read this.
Microwave radio frequencies, 5G, 6G, graphene nanomaterials, technologies used in neurological warfare. Okay, so back in 2020, when they said, the quacks said, do not get the shot because it has something to do with the 5G, and the 5G is all about becoming the Internet of Things.
Remember, he said in the trailer, that is a whistleblower.
Mm-hmm.
You are now a node. You are part of the Internet of Things. That's what he's referring to.
Okay, so allegedly, for the YouTube guys, allegedly, they want those 5G, 7G, 10G just to make sure it has no latency. And when they push the button, I feel it right away. Without the latency.
Correct.
Everywhere in the world.
Everywhere in the world.
Okay, so why do I still have a shitty signal in the US?
I don't know. They had
That's
a
5G, but
but we're transitioning to 6G. China just went to 6G. You have greater penetration, and but you know it's being marketed as this is great for us, right? But is it? I just did an interview and we did some filming down in Palm Beach with the epidemiologist and toxicologist, and she point blank says this is very dangerous for all of us. Imagine your children, your brain, the human brain, their brains aren't even developing, and you've got kids already with the cell phone section. Imagine a school bus of all these kids having these cell phones. Mm-hmm. It's exponentially affecting their brains. And she talks about the predispositions that they will have, why they have ADHD, why they have propensities to commit crimes, why their common sense isn't common anymore. I mean, these are all things that affect that.
Okay, so we live in an apartment complex, 600 to 700 apartments in the complex. So in my apartment, I can scan and I can log into, let's say, a minimum a dozen Wi-Fi's.
More than that.
More than that, dozens.
Yeah, hundreds.
So even if I go, let's say, Lake Tahoe, Big Bear Lake, I still get the signal. You can't escape that.
No.
Maybe in the Death Valley?
You know, there is a city here in the United States, and I have to look where it's at, that they call it a Wi-Fi free zone. You know, no electronics, no nothing. But I guarantee you, if I take my equipment there, I'll detect signals.
It's gonna speak.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the worst outcomes that you've seen from people saying they saw what?
Okay, so there are two cases I can talk about. One of them is the Aaron Alexis case, back in the early 2000s, late 2000, it was right after 2010. He contacted me. He says, "Hey, I hear you can help me." He was a U.S. soldier. He was having these exact same symptoms, including the signals being transmitted to his head. And I said, "Yeah, I can help you, but this isn't a quick fix. It's going to be, it's going to take a long time." The Bonnie Culleby case took 8 years of gathering evidence before they finally surgically removed something out of her. And he said, I thought he was going to go along with the program. The very next week, he went and killed 12 people at the Navy Yard. And in the butt of his gun, he inscribed ELF, extremely low frequency. He thought that's where the signal was coming from. What was Aaron Alexis? Aaron Alexis. Aaron Alexis.
Killed 12 people.
Navy Yard.
Yes, Aaron Alexis was responsible for killing 12 people. The attack happened during the Washington Navy Yard shooting on September 16, 2013 in Washington, D.C. Alexis was a civilian contractor working at the naval facility. He used a shotgun during the attack. Police shot and killed him during the response. Several others were injured. So prior to him killing a dozen of people,
He called me the week before. He called me for help. I had no idea he was going to do that. And I live with that guilt every day.
Did he tell you? What did he see or hear?
He just says they experience, even the federal employees who say they can't get away from the signal. They say they have this strange auditory sound, but what they won't say, because they don't want to be stigmatized or lose their pensions, is that they're hearing voices being transmitted to them.
Telling to do something.
Correct.
Calling.
Yes. Another case who called me is the Myron May case. Myron May was an African American attorney out of Florida. Look it up. And he did the same thing. He called me, said, "I heard you can help me." And I said, exact same thing I told Aaron Alexis. Yeah, we can gather data if this phenomenon is happening to you. Can give you evidence, but it's not a quick fix. And he goes, "I ain't got time for that. I got bigger fish to fry." I thought he was talking about doing a lawsuit against someone. And
that's a quote? Bigger fish to fry.
That's what he said to me. And then very shortly after that, he went and killed people in the research department at the University of Florida.
Yes, Myron May was an attorney from Florida who carried out a shooting at Florida State University in November 2014. He wasn't sentenced to prison. He was killed by police at the scene after the attack. May was a 31-year-old lawyer and graduate of Florida State University and later worked as a prosecutor. In the early hours of November 20th, 2014, he brought a shotgun into the Sturzier Library of the FSU campus in Tallahassee, Florida, and opened fire. He wounded 3 people during the shooting before exiting the building and refusing police officer orders to drop his weapon. Law enforcement stopped and killed him outside the library after he was fired. Reports in later investigations indicated May had been struggling with mental health issues, including. Okay, so every school shooting is this?
I can't say that. All I can say is that was my interaction with these 2 gentlemen when they went to do what they did. And remember, the Bonnie Culleby case, they diagnosed her with schizophrenia. They said she was delusional. And she wasn't. It was induced. And this is my point. This Havana syndrome is real. Colonel Egrin is testifying it. They keep changing the name. Back then in 2010, it was called electronic terrorism. Then it became Havana syndrome. Now it's very subtle. They call it anomalous health incidences. So what is the implications to society about this? Do you know if you have this nanotech in you, you're no longer considered human? You're now considered Homo borgigenesis, is a new terminology. And I ask everyone, what happens to human rights if you're no longer the human species? And if I were to ask you, is this legal? What would you say?
Of course.
It's legal.
To do what exactly?
To experiment on U.S. citizens without their consent.
How
So,
come?
in 2016, the 21st Century Cures Act was enacted and it was marketed to the U.S. citizens
21st century
Cures Act. It was marketed to U.S. citizens as a way to fight the opioid epidemic crisis. But hidden in there is a section called 3024. And under Section 3024, it is legal to experiment on U.S. citizens without their consent as long as it does not exceed minimal risk criteria. Okay? So then the common sense question is, what is minimal risk criteria? The definition is nothing that doesn't happen in normal everyday life. And I'll pose this statement: does death happen in normal everyday life? So that data that is collected under these IRBs, under research, is protected under national security protocols. So even if you did a FOIA request to see if you're on an IRB, you're not going to get it because it's protected. In 2024, prior to the transition to this new administration, they extended to include private entities, corporations, military subcontractors, and teaching universities are doing research for the U.S. government to extend those same security protocols to them. So now you have the fox guarding the hen house. So even if you did a FOIA request, you're going to get stonewalled. And that's where we're at today.
Okay, the 21st Century Cures Act is a U.S. law passed in 2016. It's also controversial. Signed into law by Barack Obama in December 2016. Gave $6+ billion to medical research, NIH cancer brain research, aimed to accelerate drug and device approvals by the FDA. Why people criticize it? Allows faster approvals with less traditional clinical trial evidence. In 4 years they did that with the Operation Warp Speed, right? Mm-hmm. Expands use of real-world evidence instead of long randomized trials. Critics say it weakens safety standards. Okay, Section 3024, in plain terms, it expanded federal support for mental health crisis response, especially early intervention, encourages states and local authorities to identify and treat people experiencing severe mental distress before violence. Okay, strengthened coordinated between mental health services, hospitals, law enforcement, emphasized court-ordered or involuntary treatment. Why it's controversial?
Yeah, so that is not the full disclosure of Section 3024. It's much larger than that. And in Section 3024, if you do pull it up under the .gov, you will see that it does say that. It does say that it is legal to experiment on U.S. citizens without their consent.
U.S. citizen or everybody only?
No, it says U.S. citizens without their consent.
So if I'm not the citizen, I'm not being...
I can't say that. All I can say is what the section says.
Okay.
The section only says that they can legally experiment on U.S. citizens without their consent.
Okay, let's say you take this device and the RF detection device, and you go to Trump and you scan him. What do you suggest you would see?
I fully expect that he would light up in the same areas that we're finding on everyone today.
Okay, Fauci. What do you think?
I don't think he took it.
But it's not about the shot. It's about everything. The food.
Correct. So
anesthesia.
So we have a doctor. Let's see. I don't know how much time we have to really close
We
this
have
up.
all the time to go.
Okay.
If you do have
Dr.
time, I have time
Madash,
for you.
okay, I have time. Because this is important. I love the fact that you're enthusiastic about hearing the truth.
Now, I want everybody to go back a little bit where it said the United States Air Force. I watched this movie. It was called Jetstream. And if you look it up, and I would go on DuckDuckGo because I know it's there, and you can look up Thor, which is in that movie, and it's it's telling you how the Air Force is controlling the skies, what it's doing, how it's controlling storms. It's very entertaining and it's actually very concerning to me, because then it leads to a lot of other problems, which is in this podcast. Because remember, it's in the snow, it's in the rain, it's in the air, and if you look up, you'll see, trails that shouldn't be there, really should not be there. So, and that's why I say when they talk about United States Air Force, they seem to be in a lot of crap lately. But anyway, this is going to be the first video. I'll put up the second part of it tomorrow. And I really didn't even want to stop the video, but I have to put it in part 1 and 2, because it's so long, it's hard to get uploaded. So please subscribe, leave a comment, and pass this video around, because I guarantee you people have to know this. People don't know this. There's a lot more involved what you just don't know. The government is not telling you. This is why I'm on here all the time showing you about government. This is huge. So, yeah. So tomorrow I'll put up part 2. So you guys have a great day, and I love you. Bye.